All right, so thank you guys for coming. I'm going to be talking about deaf culture and like the history behind it. So deaf history started with a guy named Thomas Gallaudet. He was just a guy who saw this little girl named Alice Cogswell, and he thought she was really sweet and cute, but she looked really sad. And she went to him and sat in his lap, and he was so confused on why she couldn't speak, and he saw that the other kids were picking on her, and so he wanted to learn a language that would help her be able to communicate with everyone else. So he realized that America didn't have anything like that, so he flew over to Germany initially and saw that they had more oralism, which is where you put your hand on your throat, and as a deaf person you can't hear anything, so you just feel your hand on your throat and you try to mimic the vibrations, which isn't very effective. And so they were really miserable, so we went on a ship and went to France, where they were using French Sign Language. And he saw that they were using their hands to go and communicate with one another, using different signs. He didn't understand it, but he saw that it was working really well. So he took that knowledge that he got there and brought it back to America. But it wasn't until 1965 that America recognized it as a language in and of itself. So before all of that happened, deaf people were considered dumb, illiterate, they couldn't be taught. They often put them in like insane asylums with crazies because they wouldn't be able to communicate, they wouldn't be able to do anything, they were just upset because they couldn't express their emotions. If the kids were learning oralism and they tried to use their hands, they would slap their hands and try to use that against them. They thought that if they were trying to do hand signals, it's too childish, and they didn't appreciate that. So they didn't even try to teach them because they thought it wasn't worth their time. So, like I said a second ago, Alice Cogswell was the little girl. There's now a statue of it. It was a big deal for him. He really felt compassionate for her, and he brought that language back to her and really took advantage of that. So this is just pictures of people doing sign language. So nowadays, with the differences between how it was then and now, it didn't get recognized until 1965, but even now we have famous actors and actresses who are deaf. There's whole TV shows about it. They have models who are deaf. They have famous wrestlers and sports people. Sign language actually originated the baseball hand signs because they had a deaf baseball player. They tried to make signs in order for him to understand the plays, so they continue doing that today. Actually, the founder of Girl Scouts was deaf herself, Juliette Lowe. We all love Girl Scout cookies, and she was deaf, so I thought that was cool. So there's a lot of different deaf customs. So wearing short sleeves, that's kind of a big deal for them. If they see that you have long sleeves or baggy sleeves, they can't really understand your hands, so they don't like it. They like to keep eye contact, even though all of their emotions are going to be with their hands. They like keeping eye contact with one another, and that's a sign of respect. And if you don't do that, they obviously notice that you don't know the language very well, or you're not at least bilingual in it. You don't know it 100%. So they really like eye contact, and they like the hand signals. To me, it's weird because I can't look at their hands and their eyes at the same time, but that's normal for them. Also, tapping one another to get each other's attention is a big deal for them. So instead of just popping up on top of someone and showing up in front of them, they prefer that you tap them on the shoulder, or if you stomp your foot on the ground. And yeah, so they just really like to be able to see your hands. It's kind of a big deal. In conclusion, the deaf culture started out really grabby, and they have come a long way. America finally recognized them, and they finally are able to communicate. They're educated, and they're literate just like the rest of us. Any questions? No? Okay. Hey, good job. Thanks.